All right, and blessed day. So, once again, Lord, please do forgive them, for they know not what they do, even within their own understanding of feeling in a moment that they're right. Little addition, side order. So, a thought came to mind, which kind of isn't a thought because this is just the way that I've been living, and also not just how I've been living, but what I realize works. Why are there so many children, even adult children? Why are there so many adult children that have issues and grudges with their parents? Because there's no resolution. Now, how do we get to the place of resolution? Obviously, it would take for the child to understand, the adult child to understand and give their parent grace for what their parent did not know to do in their upbringing, for the challenges that their parents faced during their upbringing. Think about being a kid is, stay in a child's place. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how things operate. You don't know what things will become to be if I just gave you everything that you wanted. You don't realize that everyone isn't created to have the same life or walk down the same path, and that it's impossible to have everything in the world and live every experience that there is out there to have. Yeah, that's tough for a kid to understand for so many different reasons, but you reflect on that a bit because this journey is your own. And then as a parent, as they always say, there's no guidebook to this. So to have a child, whether it was because out of wedlock, whatever that means, even within marriage, whatever that means, really it doesn't matter. There's no guidebook on how to raise a child for several reasons. Your circumstances, what are they? Because even someone who has everything can fall down hard and have nothing just as quick as lightning can strike. Even someone who has nothing can climb up that ladder and have something, but does that mean that they're going to know what to do with it? I take it even further. To birth a child into your current circumstances when you birth that child is not going to be your everyday circumstances throughout that child's life, because that child is an addition to your family. That child is an addition of situations and obstacles and possibilities that can be blessings and also will be lessons to that parent, to that family, to every environment that that child comes in. So the collaboration of a parent and the child that they birth, think about it. It's like two strangers, because ultimately, regardless of whether that child, which obviously that child does come from your bloodline, or let's say even you adopted it, the way it works is, even if you birth the child, you might as well look at the child as a child that you adopt, because that child is a child of God. You do not know the journey that that child is about to take. All you know is the influences that you engage into that child's life. So you're birthing a stranger. You could do your best to try to mold that child into exactly what you want them to be, but you need to understand as a parent, they are an individual. They are not property or possession. You have rights and responsibility over that child because you birthed them as your responsibility to care for, to nurture, to provide for, and to teach them the lessons of life that is needed to survive, to have peace, to have happiness, to have problem resolution. Now, once again, why are there so many adult children who have problems and grudges against their parents? Because the age and the eras that we have grown up in, because the age and eras that our parents were developed in. As I said before, stay in a child's place. What is a child's place? Because that adult was once a child. And I feel that me personally, that it is so unfair to send your child, your creation, God's child, out into the world at 18, feeling that 18 is the cutoff age of them supposed to know everything. Yes, they should go out there and experience the world, but they should also been brought up in a household and with the person that they trust to deliver transparency and growth with them while they're out there experiencing the world. What does that mean? That means, okay, you lived in a household with me. I've taught you the best way that I can. I taught you what I knew. I even was vulnerable with you to show you the things that I have yet to learn and the challenges that I have and my traumas, if there are any, that I am still learning to face because life isn't easy. And yes, in a sense, it was selfish of me to birth you into this world, knowing that life wasn't easy, knowing that you're going to have to learn pain outside of the happiness and the blindness that you was birthed of. That you're going to have to learn that this world is a wicked place as much as it can be beautiful. But once you get out there at any age, that you should be able to come back to me and trust that if no one else out there in the world is going to be honest with you about who you are, who you become, how I personally perceive it, who else is going to do that for you? Because this world is filled with people who are looking for their next level up. This world is full of people who are looking for ownership. They want to own someone, whether they have kids or not. They want to own your energy. They want to own your likeness. They want to own everything of you. And it's easier for them, it's felt to be easier for them to own you if you don't realize that you are under ownership. So therefore, they would prefer you to have traumas. They would prefer you not to see possibilities. They would prefer you not to understand that resolution is in pretty much everything. If you have the will, if you have the strength, if you have the patience, proper guidance, if you know yourself, if you can be honest with yourself about what it is that you can handle right now in this day in darkness, this light and darkness of who you are today versus who you will be and can be potentially tomorrow. So, once again, why is it that adult children hold such grudges against their parents and against their upbringing and always, per usual, on the they did this to me, they did that. Yes, they did that to you. Yes, these things happened. Yes, things could have been different. Yes, they could have worked harder, but you don't know what those days where they were motivated and encouraged to work harder, what those that stood up in their way to prevent them to actually, see those things through just as your days go. So the responsibility and the interest is actually on both sides. The adult children's side to show grace, to give grace. And so we can heal our parents. Yeah, I know. Sounds rather backwards. It's not. We're all individuals. And even our parents have went through struggles that their time and era didn't allow for them to recover from. That they did not understand, just as, most of us didn't understand what having a child meant and the responsibilities that came along with that and the changing of the laws and the changing of the earth, the changing of the environment, the changing of identity and the possibilities of it. Trying to keep up with the Joneses and make it seem like, everything's all good and not everything's all swell, but inside themselves and inside their household, everything is such a wreck and such a web that's been woven. And it's tough to know where to start. Whether they were working in collaborations with a spouse or they were working in collaborations with a part-time outside of the household parent, or living in a household with many family members and saying, this is my child and don't tell me what to do with my kid, and not realizing what you as a kid noticed and paid attention and what you pulled from that situation versus the intent behind it. And maybe the intent behind it wasn't well, but what did you pull from it? Even when the intent behind it wasn't well, did you feel that your parent was taking care of you and that was the way that things were supposed to be done? Abuse is abuse. But first and foremost, abuse is definitely started within the mindset. Time, the eras, history has abused humankind, just in general, in so many different ways, forcing you to make a selection, forcing you to stand on one side and be against any other who isn't standing with you. So to the parents, heal, work on yourself, build relationships if you do indeed want to continue to have a relationship with your adult children or the children that you're bringing up. Transparency is important. Honesty is important. And though you may tell your story one way now, a week from now, you may see your story in a different light, in a different perspective. The story that you told so long ago has warped into a different form of dialogue to current date. Yes, to protect you from losing it, to protect you from how you were perceived. And I understand your adult children don't give you the grace to understand the same things that they're going through. It's the same things that challenge you from showing yourself to be vulnerable towards them. So, as I said before, the responsibility, if indeed there is healing to be had and there's growth to be had and generational curses to be broken, the responsibility is going to have to be in coexistence. And everybody's going to have to bring their immaturity to the table and realize what needs to be fixed, that you're not always going to be right, and that someone may actually be able to give you a little insight on your dealings that you didn't think to look at in certain ways, that you didn't think to give yourself the forgiveness or the space of understanding of being a possibility. A lot of us growing up as kids, period, we trust those who we are birthed onto. We trust the environment that we are birthed onto, and we don't know that wrong is wrong until we see that there are other options and ways. And even if you feel inside of yourself that, I don't know, they're telling me that I have to do this, and they're telling me that this is the way that things are gonna be, something doesn't feel right about it. You have in ways been created to be fearful, to exile yourself from those situations because of your codependency, because the dependency. And there's vultures out there. Yeah, I'm thinking Lion King right now. Can't stand Disney. But there's vultures out there. And there's hyenas, and there's, I don't know, the sweetest thing can be so deadly. Looks can very much so be deceiving. Titles make life deceiving, because you never know what's inside of someone. And you never know the education of someone and their being and their experiences. There's so much that I can say, and I can go on and on and on. But let's just call this a start. In order for there to be a union, finger pointing is going to seem to exist. And I know that that's a trigger for pretty much everybody. Finger pointing, blaming is a trigger. How else do you have accountability other than to say, this is my weight that I've carried, whether with understanding or without understanding? This is my weight that I've carried to this point. And once I realized that I was wrong, I needed to stop being a coward. And I needed to take accountability to say, you know what? I didn't know better in my teachings when I was guiding you. I did the best with the pressure and the struggles that I had and the things that were of my allowances when it was my responsibility to share in a space with you or care for you or even respond to what you lacked. Anger does not heal with anger. We know what it does. We got to stop being cowards. We have to realize no one's always right. And even in your peaceful protest, even in your space of, well, I know I'm not right, and sometimes you could definitely become an enabler. And I'm not going to say that the adult children are completely wrong, because sometimes in order for any relationship to realize what they had in you or what they may never have again, sometimes the best thing to do is separate yourself from the situation so they can see themselves, so you can see yourself clearly. And so you can make the best decision for yourself. Yes, we all want to live under that fairy tale of mom and dad and sister and brother and dog and cat and the little fish and whatever, happy neighbors, clean environment. But that's not how everyone's story goes. Show gratitude. Be grateful for what you do have. Adult children onto your parents, be grateful for what they did get right, even when they were wrong. Because though you feel that they traumatized you, all trauma, as unwelcoming as this is going to sound, all trauma is a catalyst for your growth. Validation. Yeah, Disturbia. All trauma should be a catalyst for your growth. Pain should be a catalyst for your growth. Now it's up to you whether you want to stay in a victim mindset, how long you choose to stay there, and how much of life you choose to let pass you by. And that's not just a message for the adult children, because I know parents feel that their child has traumatized their experience of being a parent and their experience of being an individual so much. First off, your child did not ask to be here. You had fun making them, and if you didn't have fun making them, maybe you shouldn't have been where you was at, but no fault blaming here. It happened. Whether you was forced to have the child, whether you chose to have the child, obviously the Most High allowed it to happen for a reason. Your children as well are your teachers. They're not just your students. Your children as well, adult children, little children, they are the catalyst for your growth. How often do you hear parents say that, hey, so I don't know where I would have been in life had I not had my child. I wouldn't have made these steps in my career or bettered my choices in relationships if it hadn't have been for my child. I know I can say so many of those things and give my children the validation of my growth, no matter how long it took for me to make them, those better decisions. There is no ownership, only influence. Influence, obligations, responsibilities. Take your ego and your pride out of your upbringing. Take your ego and your pride out of your raising of your children, and even take your ego and your pride and your arrogance out of how you perform yourself around other people's children. Yes, there's a lot of things in this world that needs to be explained and shared from one human being to another. We're supposed to be exchanging information, not gatekeeping. I do not know that song, but my neighbors, okay? We're not supposed to be gatekeeping. We're supposed to be sharing information. So that whole concept of stay in a child's place. Now, wonder there's adult children due to mindset. The trauma that it must have been for those adults who were constantly told to stay in a child's place, never realizing the blurred line between being a child and nurturing the child within inside of them and healing the child within inside of them, and actually being an adult. Money does not make you an adult. It's the way you carry yourself. It's the behavior and the responsibility that you realize your presence has and how it can affect others that creates you to be an adult, that creates your maturity. And a little bit of immaturity is great so long as it's honest, authentic, pure fun that does not violate someone else's will to a healthy mind, to healthy choices and healthy living. There's always so much more that I can say. I hope this conversation was engaging for you. And once again, whatever triggered you, whether it triggered you to be angry, whether it triggered you to cry, whether it triggered you to feel a spark of life being birthed inside of you, I don't know. Figure out what that emotion is. And know that it's okay. Because though we're spirits, we are living a human experience. And it's best that we figure this stuff out sooner rather than later. Because life is short. And everything's possible. Be humble, stay blessed. Hope to see you soon. Well, talk to you soon. We ain't gonna do all that now. Bye.